Welcome everyone to episode 8 of Boom Mike Banter. I am Nick. With me today is two wonderful brothers that I love very much. Brian, I've had you on before. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
That was it.
I'm good.
It's just okay. And Brian, your brother, a friend of mine that I care for deeply and emotionally on a spiritual level, Brandon. Brandon, how the fuck you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Popping that podcast cherry.
Yeah, this is your first podcast, Brandon.
Nice.
So what do you think? How do you feel?
Blank expression.
We haven't started yet.
No, we have. This is recording.
We're literally
I just
talking
introed
right
it.
Well,
We're
I'm just saying
literally-
we haven't discussed anything yet.
No, oh yeah. But okay.
We just
wanted to know.
I just didn't know if the experience. I didn't know if the whole experience.
We just wanted to know what you were feeling.
I know you still. I know you were still feeling iffy about the table setup. You thought that I was going to set you up on some weird documents, so I just didn't know.
On a lot of disclaimers.
Well, there is a lot, Brandon. So afterwards, I think we're gonna figure this out. So the reason I have both of you on, not just because you're my friends, I hate you both mutually, but no, it was mostly about the draft. And on a side note, fuck both of you on two separate side notes because we were supposed to have this podcast fucking weeks ago. Both of you fucking bailed for multiple reasons. That's all right. I still love you both anyway.
It's the NFL offseason. Shit doesn't happen for the next 2 months anyway.
That's
we could have had this podcast 3 weeks
period.
from. We could have had this podcast 3 weeks from now. It wouldn't have mattered.
That is very true.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the draft. Brian, you had fucking like nonstop coverage of it, and Brandon, you were fucking there, which is like a huge fucking deal.
Yep.
But we were talking about it a little bit beforehand. Brian, so you kind of want to go over a lot of the preface stuff beforehand, right?
Yeah, so a lot of casual NFL fans probably just see it as, okay, the Super Bowl happened, then they just jump right to the NFL draft months later. But
That's me.
There's a lot that goes on in between that. Mm-hmm. There's the NFL scouting combine, where they evaluate these guys in their underwear, literally.
Sounds hot.
Running their 3 cones, 40-yard dashes, or their bench presses, or their high jumps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that all apparently has something to do with where they're going to get drafted as a football player, even though it's just these guys in underwear being athletic.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of it's so funny that like that's what it's boiled down to. I feel like now it's just like let's just purely evaluate them as physical fucking specimens.
Exactly.
It doesn't really hold that much of a a lot of times when you listen to people when they get like the GMs get closer to drafting, they don't actually say that like the combine means that much. Like you can blow up the combine and it'll make it look like, at least in the pre-draft, like people are going to go way higher than they do.
Yeah.
But it's like for the most part they base it on like what happened in college and then what the team needs.
That's
The combine's helpful to give you some like idea of like how fast people are, how strong they are, how much they can jump, how good they look in underwear. But like it doesn't really give you like they're going to base it more on their production than anything else like in college.
I mean, he's so happy they just go through the whole dossier. It's like, oh my god. Like, he's fucking terrible. He can't lift for shit. His fucking running is one of the slowest out of the entire team he was with. But goddamn, he looks amazing in those Calvin Kleins. Like, we gotta bring him.
So, to counter his point a little bit, he's right that usually teams have figured out who they would draft, where they're going to draft before the NFL Combine. But there's usually guys who up their draft stock at the NFL Combine because they show what kind of athletes they are. Okay. So when you pair that with their college tape, then you say, okay, this guy could develop into a very top tier talent.
Yeah. Well, they got to bank. I was assuming that too. They kind of have to bank on potential. They can't just automatically like draft like a fucking AAA dude because they got to put investment in players that think that they can get there too. Which is
so
important.
After the top 10 in the NFL draft, you're pretty much just dealing with lottery tickets. The further you go down in the draft, you go from like the millions of dollars lottery tickets to like the I'll win $100 lottery tickets in like the 7th round. Mm-hmm. So
is that really like what in both your opinions, by the way, because obviously it could be different. Where do you think like the number super tapers? Like where do you think like where's the number where both you kind of look at draft wise, and then like afterwards it's like I don't really give a shit. I mean, of course, I know you guys probably covered both, but like Is there like a particular number or pretty much like let's say 5? Like they had the 5th round draft and then you're like, I don't give a fuck.
It depends on your team. For like, I'm like a Titans fan, and for the most part, at least for most of my life,
First of all,
they've
Brandon,
had
I'm so sorry.
they've had like the worst team for so long.
Yeah.
They normally pick really early in the drafts anyway, but they actually draft better later on than they normally do in the beginning.
Well, there you
They're
go.
like multiple Pro Bowlers on their team were 3rd round picks.
Oh,
And
okay.
if I had to pick like a spot where it drops off, it's probably when day 3 starts, which is round 4 to 7.
Okay.
Because I mean, like your 1st round pick is obviously like whoever you're banking on as the most potential and is going to be the best like impact player.
Yeah,
and then 2 and 3 are typically people that they're probably expecting to start or have like a decent bit of potential to do something.
No, it makes sense. I
But
mean, speaking,
it all depends on your team. At least in my experience, following the Titans drafts for 10 years.
Well,
in a
dude,
row,
don't even get me started.
They
Now,
draft way better later on in the rounds than they do in the early rounds.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I haven't had, for me being a Giants fan over the past probably 5 years, I haven't had the best luck. But previous that was great. But now it's just been a fucking downhill.
they drafted
slaughter.
Daniel Jones with the 6th overall pick.
Ah, Jesus Christ! And especially this year of all years, don't even get me started on that. But.
So, to give some context to what Brandon was saying, so 1st round, 32 picks. 2nd round, 32 picks. 3rd round, that's when it gets sketchy because the 3rd round is 32 picks plus what they call compensatory selections. So, what happens with a compensatory selection is
First, it's really tough to fucking say.
a player leaves in free agency, like their contract expires, another team signs them.
Got it.
So if another team does that and the team that let them go doesn't sign somebody comparable, they get what they call compensatory selections.
Okay.
So basically it starts in the 3rd round. They get just free draft picks basically because those good players left. That goes anywhere from the 3rd to the 7th round. So every round after the 1st and 2nd can have 32 picks or more because of compensatory selections. So it's not usually a good way of replacing like a high level talent because like the Carolina Panthers, for example, they let left guard Andrew Norwell, who was like one of the top 2 graded left guards in the NFL, go in free agency. They got a 3rd round pick for that, and you want to know what they did with that? They drafted a backup quarterback. So it's not really.
We can debate if it's a backup quarterback or not.
I don't want to talk about Will Greer
I
now.
think Will Greer is gonna take over the starting job for Carolina
Oh shit!
as the time goes on. But this is a debate.
So we'll get to that, but so as far as like the NFL draft goes, from my perspective, as far as like where the top end talent lies and where the drop off goes, I would say 1st round is where you look for guys who are going to be starters in the NFL. In the 2nd round, you could be looking for starters, but like midway through it, like let's say the 50th pick, for example, that's where you go look for guys who could help your team in the future, but might not be guys that you need to bank on to start.
Got it.
So
More long-term
and then
investments.
beyond that, it's just finding guys who have certain talents that make them win in the NFL. Like in the 3rd round and beyond, it's basically about, okay, what is this guy good at? Like what is worth drafting him? Where in the 1st and 2nd round, it's like, okay, what is he bad at? What are reasons not to draft him there?
So, if anything, too, because obviously each of us have teams.
Right.
Brian, obviously yours being the Panthers. That's I
Right.
think the only one that we didn't disclaimer ahead of time. So overall review. I mean, like not in depth, but just like literally personal opinion. How do you think they drafted this year? Your team specifically.
Go ahead.
I think the Titans had an excellent draft. I mean, I think they actually had one of the better drafts in the league. Their 1st round pick, which I don't agree with Brian per se on like what they spend their or like how they draft their picks.
Damn,
I don't take it like I take a 1st round pick as like that's who you're expecting to be one of your star players, even if it's a later 1st round pick.
I wasn't disagreeing with that.
No, I know, but you were saying like your 1st rounder is normally a starter. Like at least, and again, my team's been worse for longer, so maybe it's how it goes. But like the 2nd and 3rd rounders for the most part are the starters, and then your 1st round's like who you're drafting as potential. And this particular year for the Titans, when they drafted, they took Jeffrey Simmons in the 1st round. He tore his ACL in February, so more likely than not, he's not going to play his first season.
Yeah.
If he does, he's going to play after the bye week and
Yeah.
play sometime around like week 12 or something like that. He might come back towards the end of the season.
Just so you guys know, too, for those of you who aren't NFL fans, Jeffrey Simmons was a defensive lineman.
That's it.
I'm just letting you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was waiting for like Andy murdered his.
Yeah,
I was
he-
No, he.
waiting-
Yeah.
Yeah,
waiting for, like, the bigger
he was a
pop drop.
defensive tackle from Mississippi State,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a video that came out from him in high school of him punching a girl.
Oh, really?
And it sparked a lot of controversy because ESPN, when they announced the pick, like immediately put the video up. And
Of
the video is
course.
pretty graphic, but it was from high school, and at least to his
I mean, that's still pretty
his
bad.
recalling of the story, his sister was in a fight. And he was backing up his sister.
Yeah, but that's
now I'm not
still-
saying it's like valid or anything like that. It's I mean
rough.
it's not good no matter how it goes. But since he's been
damn.
added to Mississippi State and he was on the team, everyone that was there raved about him and said that he was a
Super
great
upstanding
person.
guy, and
he
yeah.
gave back to the community. He did a lot of good things at Mississippi State. It was a mistake that he's trying to get past.
Yeah.
The Titans owner spoke to him before they drafted him and told him he needs to be involved in the community. And they're not going to take him if he's not committed to being a good person.
Yeah, of course.
And they really worked with him on that.
God
But that
damn.
first round draft pick was all potential for them. They were drafting a defensive tackle who's injured, not going to play their first year
Yeah.
because of the potentials there. If he didn't tear his ACL in February, he was expected to be like a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
But because he was hurt, there was concerns, and that's why he dropped off a little
Well,
while.
dude, even before that, I just love that mental concept of like, we drafted someone. Oh wait, for some reason this World Star video is getting
exactly.
500 more.
Exactly.
upvotes.
It's like as soon as he got drafted, that like World Star just blew up for the day. Like they got all their viewings in that they've been waiting for throughout April,
Christ.
just on draft day when he got drafted.
God damn it, it's fucking insane. Brian, how about you? How about you with
Well,
with your
before I
draft?
even get into that,
All right. Some more preface. I'm down.
so we were talking about Jeffrey Simmons for the Titans. So the thing about the NFL draft, for those of you who might be listening who don't really understand anything other than the team picked this guy.
Yeah, draft.
So after like the top 10, usually teams are looking for the best value. When I say value, I mean like you have this draft pick as far as like this player's ranking in your top 100, for example.
Yeah.
So you make that pick based on what you have as far as the best value goes.
Yeah.
Like talent-wise, physically-wise,
Oh yeah. Of
what
course.
they've done production-wise,
get
etc.
that.
I felt the Titans made an excellent value pick because Jeffrey Simmons would have been a top 10 pick if he hadn't punched a woman in high school and wasn't hurt.
Yeah. See,
So-
Brandon, take this as a moment. I think Brian inconsequently gave you a compliment.
I mean, I gave the Titans a compliment, not...
That still counts. Take what you can get. But anyway, keep going.
So for the Panthers, so as a social media manager / writer for Cat Scratch Reader, part of Vox Media,
Damn, big flex.
big flex. I have done several mocks as far as what the Panthers would have done.
Well, yeah,
their pick.
I was about to say you've been prepping this for like
Yeah,
ever.
and what happened was,
Yeah.
I did these mock drafts, and most of the time, the guy that I was looking at, defensive end Brian Burns, was not there when the Carolina Panthers picked. And Brian Burns is a 230-pound guy who runs a 4.5, 4.6 40, which is ridiculously fast
Yeah,
for
it's
a
just
defensive
insane.
end.
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
He's a player where the ball snaps, he could potentially go out there and hit the quarterback before he can hit it all.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how
yeah.
fast he is.
Which is good.
Um,
That's like main key on a fucking defensive line.
and the Giants decided to select Daniel Jones, who should have been like at best a third-round pick.
Yep.
And that just threw the whole draft into a spiral. And the Panthers were sitting there at the 16th overall pick, and they had Brian Burns there, and they selected him.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me really happy.
Yeah, I was just gonna
So-
say. Yeah, you seemed. I mean, like, low key when we talked about it, like way before. Like, I think like right when you found out. Yeah, you were like jumping for fucking joy. You were like super amped.
That's because it was a big need. And the NFL these days is a lot different from like 5 years ago.
Well, yeah, the
Because-
league has been changing a lot.
Well, the NFL now is more of a passing league because the NFL basically incentivizes throwing the ball. Like,
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it also creates player longevity.
it's not even just that. It's just that, like, on any given play, on a passing play, you have a stupid holding penalty against the defense. You have a bullshit roughing the passer penalty.
Mm-hmm.
You have a hit on a defenseless receiver penalty. Like, the NFL has basically incentivized and basically all but said, we want offenses to throw the football. So,
oh, well, yeah. Well, and also, like, I mean, on a typical play, I mean, first of all, hypothetically, if the play's successful, but, like, typically in a fucking throwing play, you're going to get more yardage. And that's typically the goal.
yeah. No, analytics say that throwing the football is more
advantageous.
Not even just advantageous, but it's just
God damn it, Brian!
It's
you're just
more
gonna
successful.
say there we go. That's the same thing.
No, but advantageous and successful are different things. Like,
God damn it.
advantageous implies that, like, there's a higher.
We're splitting hairs, Brian.
We are splitting hairs.
We're splitting hairs, Brian. You're
but
arguing about fucking successful and advantageous.
throwing the football is a higher percentage success than running the football. Like, and the NFL has all but basically said, "Hey, we want you to throw the ball literally every play."
Yeah.
With how they've defined defenses and how they define penalties. So, at this day and age, getting people who can rush the passer is way more important than getting people who can
I mean, of course. I mean, people that can fucking do phenomenal shit. I feel like that's like top fucking notch.
Well, Burns also, when he was at the combine, which I know I was saying earlier, like the combine's not always a huge thing, but like he has the speed of like a wide receiver, so he can line up on the edge and also drop back in coverage. And he's extremely fast. He's very quick. Like, I think he'll be able to play all over the field.
Well, it's good shit. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, you gotta get fucking players that can do that type of shit. Like, that's like genuinely what the fuck is important. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And for a team like Carolina, I mean, they're the biggest. At least I thought the biggest two needs for them were like an offensive lineman and an edge rusher.
Yeah.
And Carolina, I believe it was in the second round, they went out and took an offensive lineman. They traded up for. Who was the dude?
Greg Little.
Yeah, the dude from Ole Miss, right? He was I thought that was a great pickup for them to get. They basically needed to beef up the trenches on both sides, the offensive line and defensive line.
Yeah, so to translate for the non-NFL football people here. So
yeah, I was about to say, please give me layman's.
An NFL quarterback is typically right-handed. I think none of us can dispute that. Right-handed is just the dominant way of being human. Like, left-handed people are not considered.
Hey,
they don't have the same rights as us.
Hey,
okay?
you fucking watch yourself, Brian. All right, I'm trying to live my best life here. Okay.
So, in the NFL, a player who is right-handed trying to throw a pass, the worst thing that could happen to them is have somebody on the defensive line come up and hit him in the back because they can't see that.
Yeah.
So, offensive tackles on the left side are typically very highly valued prospects. So, Carolina traded up to get one who could potentially pass protect for them on the left side. And fun fact, they haven't done that since 2002.
So, Brian, let me ask you something too, because I know you're like super into like analytics and stuff. So, like, before this draft started, how much, like, so already, I know like both of you guys have like a really good fucking on point knowledge, like way before the draft even started. But was there any, especially for you, Brian, because I know you were doing like on point coverage, because you had like essentially like a project going on with it. Was there any like major like research or like any type of like big like outside of your norm that you did to like prep for it?
The outside of the norm that I did for it was just watching film and looking at players and saying, okay, how would they fit into the Carolina Panthers offense and defense?
Yeah.
So there are people out there who watch film and they say, okay, this player is good at this, or this player is good at this, or this player is bad at this. But they're looking at it on a grand scale. They're not looking at it from a team-based perspective, because every team in the NFL does something different.
Well, yeah.
So when those film scout guys are out there just saying like, oh, this guy can run an out route or a slant route or a 9 route and whatever. And I'm sure this is all Japanese to the people who don't watch football. But basically what I'm saying is that these specific routes, these guys can run. But that's not how it works in the NFL. You don't just put a guy out there and say, you run this route. That's what you got to do. It's
all, of course.
Every NFL scheme is very, very intricate.
Yeah.
So,
well, and they also got to be able to play shit on the fly because they have to be. I mean, of course they have a fucking strategy. I'm assuming, but then of course they have to be reactive based on whatever the offensive line is doing or defensive line.
It's not even just that. Like, so a slant route is typically a route where a wide receiver on the outside runs three steps and makes a cut inside. But for one team, that might be a really sharp cut inside. For another team, like let's say it's a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
For another team, that might be a 75-degree angle.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is that every team does shit different.
Oh, well, yeah. But I'm saying, so let's go back to what I was asking you, though, for it. So the prep work for it, though. So
that's what I'm saying, though. I'm leading up to that. Like,
yeah.
For the Carolina Panthers, they run routes a specific way. Mm-hmm. They run an offense a specific way. So, for me, scouting that team is different from NFL assholes scouting the team. Because for me, I'm like, okay, this guy can run this specific route for the Carolina Panthers, where this guy might not be able to. So that's the work that I do, is that I go watch film and say, okay, this guy could run this route for this team. Other analysts will say, okay, he can run this route in general. Like, that's the difference between what I do and what, your general NFL analyst will do, is that I'm looking at team-specific fits.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Brandon, you're fucking at the draft. That had to be dope as shit.
Yeah, I went a little bit of a different route. Although I'm a Titans fan, like I wanted to make sure that while I'm there, because I don't have my phone on me, like tracking who draft picks are. I want to make sure I knew all 32 people that could possibly go in the first round.
Well, I was
the next 32 people that somehow could end up in the first round but shouldn't have been there, like Daniel Jones per se.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say is what I love, actually, and I'm so glad I had both of you guys on too, because I love I feel like you guys had a very different approach how you went. Like, Brian definitely went more like analytics and like statistics, and I feel like you more went for like the experience. I could be wrong with that. Like,
I mean, I kind of go a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But at least in this particular case, like building up, I wasn't as concerned. Like, I mean, I obviously pay a lot more attention to my team than any other team.
Of course, yeah.
But
I mean,
I was paying attention to like every other, what other teams would want, what other teams needed. I paid attention to every different player. Mm-hmm. I read about everybody. I watched tape on everybody. I'm much more of a tape person as well.
Oh, okay.
I care more about production than athleticism and like what people can do.
Okay.
It comes down to what they did in college. And at least for like my team going in, the player I originally wanted going into all of it was A.J. Brown, who was a wide receiver from Ole Miss, who put up over 1,300 yards for 2 straight seasons at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
He lost a lot of draft type to DK Metcalf, the guy with the pictures who was ripped. And was like 6'4", he ran like a 4'3" flat.
Yeah.
Like he had like 3% body fat, by the way.
He looks like he's ready to just like beat up a whole family or something.
He was
like,
born from a cloud. Just
exactly. He's just like, but the production wasn't there in college. So personally, I'm more about production. And for my team, I thought a wide receiver was one of the top needs. So being at the draft and when we're watching all the picks go down, I'm just waiting. It took like an hour and a half or so to get to pick 19 where the Titans picked. I wanted a wide receiver. As I got closer to the draft, I actually wanted a different Brown, but it was Marquise Brown from Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
And he was the guy I as it got closer to the draft, that was flashy and I really thought would be a good scheme fit.
Yeah.
And there was good production in college, but it wasn't the same. So when they took Jeffrey Simmons in the first, I was still excited, but it didn't fill, in my opinion, what the top need was for them. Because they drafted someone who's not, I mean, Simmons isn't going to play. He could play at the end of his first season, but more likely than not, he's going to have to sit for a year, and you're taking the potential.
I disagree.
But when they drafted A.J. Brown in the second round, at least, and I was even more excited about the A.J. Brown pick outside of the first round when I wasn't even there.
Yeah.
Because that addressed the top need, and it allows them, I mean, A.J. Brown, I think, is going to come in with his production, what he did on tape at Ole Miss, and how much better he was than the athletic freak in Metcalf.
Yeah.
I think he can come in and make an instant impact. So even if Simmons doesn't play immediately, they can wait on the potential. Their defense was already really good beforehand. It's their offense that's been miserable for the better part of my life. So seeing their offense actually get somebody in the second round, who I wanted in the first round originally, fall to the second. They didn't have to trade up. They didn't have to reach for him or anything. They got him in a really good spot and made the draft pick. That was what made the draft for me, and in all their picks. I thought they made other picks that were smart too. But
so, to kind of explain what Brandon's getting at here for non-NFL fans. So, the NFL draft is kind of like the lottery.
Well, yeah, you were saying that.
So the more shots you have, the better off you are, because you might hit on a guy who will work out.
Yeah.
So, what Brandon was talking about as far as value goes with the wide receiver that he was talking about, value. What they mean by value is this guy should have been drafted at this specific spot.
Well, yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
because of his athletic skill set, but you got him lower than that.
Yeah, I'm picking up
alongside other guys who don't have that value.
Yeah. There's almost kind of like a cop out that he got put so low, but then obviously the fact that he still got picked up.
The thing about the NFL draft is like people obsess over it because it's all about. It's really bad. Like, and you think I obsess over it?
Well, I was literally going to be like, God damn it, Brian. I was like, you've been elaborating for like 20,
you think I
25 minutes
over
on the
it.
stats.
I don't. There are fans out there who will call me an asshole for the takes I've had because of...
Oh, well, first of all, everybody's got their own opinion. I mean, I give both of you guys fucking kudos for looking over... Like, I mean, listen, I'm a Giants fan, but I will never be that much of a Giants fan to look over fucking review tapes and shit. So
I have to.
I mean, but no, I'm saying kudos to both of you even for that.
But,
well, I mean, Brandon doesn't have any fucking official shit going on. He's still looking over tapes.
Yeah.
Good for you, Brandon. Good for you. I'm fucking proud of you, Brandon. The
NFL draft is just a crapshoot in itself. It's like... It's almost like watching... the Kentucky Derby.
Well, even just the small example that Brandon brought up. Like, you could draft someone and they might have the best fucking stats and everything in school, and then you see some fucking World Star video and then they get fucked. Like, and then on top of it, or they have some fucking injury. They can have an injury in fucking training camp.
Right.
And get fucking plat out for the whole fucking season just because they fucking rolled an ankle or some shit. Like, dumb shit happens. The human body's, like, ridiculous, so...
The thing about the NFL draft is it's like the time for NFL fans to be like, this is where we can win the Super Bowl. Like that.
Oh, it's the new. I feel like it's the new hype and anticipation every year. It's the new, it's the squeaky.
It's because everything is possible in the NFL draft. You could get the next Tom Brady.
Oh, definitely.
You could get the next Jerry Rice. Like that's why fans enjoy it, is because you don't know how good the player is you're drafting. More often than not, they're at best, a decent starter.
Solid.
But
yeah.
Sometimes you get a Tom Brady. Sometimes you get a Tony Romo. Sometimes you get a Chris Johnson. Sometimes you get a Jake Delhomme or a Steve Smith.
Or some type of shit. That makes sense.
Sometimes you get Will Grier. You get
the cheapest starting quarterback in the NFL. Okay, so I'm just going to address this now. So Cam Newton has been the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers since 2011.
Yep, you've been loving him for a while.
I have. He was the 2015 NFL MVP, meaning he was considered the most valuable player in the NFL.
Big flex, but okay.
But he had some shoulder issues over the last 2 years, so the Carolina Panthers used a third-round pick.
The weight's been weighing on him.
A compensatory selection, by the way, to select...
Best comp pick ever.
Quarterback Will Grier out of West Virginia. And the thing about Cam Newton is that he's got a certain trait about him. I don't know if it's that he's big or that he's strong or that he's black. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But there's a certain group of the fan base who thinks that he's not a starting quarterback.
Okay.
So when the Carolina Panthers spend a third-round pick on a quarterback...
Yeah, that's...
Now we're at...
It's interesting.
Hey, this guy should start over Cam Newton, former NFL MVP. And it's fucking annoying as hell. It really is.
How's that make you feel, Brian?
I fear the Grier.
You should fear the Grier. But it's not... For me, like, the reason I've been bringing up Grier and whatnot is not because I'm not taking shots at Cam Newton for his talent. I mean, I'm aware he was an MVP in
of course. Yeah,
2015 and he was a good player. But 2015 was 4 years ago. He's been banged up a lot since. And I'm not necessarily saying that, like, I still think Cam Newton has it in him to be good. But I was personally a huge fan of Will Grier coming into this draft.
Well,
production-wise, he was one of the best QBs in college. He was up for the Heisman race until the very end of the year when West Virginia fell off.
Well, I was going to say, too, and this is and I know you guys are are going to clap back and correct me immediately. If I'm not wrong, and I mean, this is like universal, but across the NFL, what is the average career time of a player? Is it like 3 or 4 years? It's always like something really small.
It's less than that if we're going off of all players.
It's like literally, it's like,
it's
yeah, all
1 to 2 years.
That's
at
what
best.
it is. Yeah, it's like 1 to 2 years, which is fucking just like crazy to think about. So like when you do hear these big names and they make it multiple years, I mean, of course they have talent. That's how you know their name in the first place, of course. But on top of that, yeah, to just even, I mean, like fucking how many years now has Tom Brady been going? Like just on a total.
I think he just finished.
I don't
like
want to think about that.
season.
Yeah, it's like fucking insane. He's like a fucking fossil, and he's still fucking making it. It's goddamn ridiculous. I mean, of course, he's a quarterback, so he's not getting hit as much. But...
One thing to address about what your point was, the NFL has a rookie wage scale, which means that if a player is drafted from anywhere from the 1st to the 7th round, which is the last round, there is only a certain max amount they can make in their first 4 years in the league.
Yeah.
So it incentivizes teams to drop off those guys who are out
that are
4 years later and draft guys to replace them because it costs so much less money.
Of course, yeah,
so
definitely.
One thing to note here, though, is that in 2 years, the NFL will meet about the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, that fucking makes sense.
And the last time they did this was when they implemented this rookie wage scale. So I think when they meet about the new collective bargaining agreement, that rookies are not going to get fucked as bad as they are now.
Well, yeah, it's a real tough bout. I can only fucking imagine. It's got to be insane to fucking actually get your name like properly out there and then fucking have enough talent to be able to back it up. Like that's just mind blowing to me how you have players that can make it like even 4 or 5, and then you have fucking like I mean yet again very weird examples, but you have fucking people like Brett Favre and shit who like retire and then don't retire and then fucking they're just like in the league for like fucking ever, and you're just like what the fuck.
What sucks about it now is that like a player could make like, I'll give a good example, Christian McCaffrey. He's been Christian McCaffrey, for anybody who's listening, is like probably top 10 running backs in the league right now.
Big deal.
And he's making maybe top 20 running back money at best.
Well, the money. Well, by the way, I don't know if any of you guys know this. I know I'm putting you on the spot with this. Do you guys know like the even like rookie like the income still has to be fucking insane, right? Like the money that they're making.
The money they're making is mostly guaranteed, but it's still shitty as far as like.
Really?
It's still shitty as far as like established veteran money.
Oh well, I mean then you're hitting fucking
where
ridiculous money.
It
But I'm
depends
saying
on
still
who it is, but
bank.
it's like if you look at like McCaffrey. I mean, he was drafted. What was McCaffrey? Was he the 8th overall pick? I mean, granted, right now he might be making like not outside the top 10 money for a running back, but once he proves himself, which he already has, it's going to take him maybe another year.
He's
going to
make easily top 3.
He's going to make. Yeah, I was going to say he's going to break the bank. I mean, whenever you play above, whenever you're like one of the star players at your position, you're going to want the top deal in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely.
So like
you end up making
Christian
millions.
McCaffrey is stuck from year 1 to year 5. He has 4 years of what they call the first round pick contract, and then his 5th year is what they call the 5th year option, where it's basically guaranteed if he gets hurt. It's like the average of the top 15 NFL running back salaries. But from a performance standpoint, Christian McCaffrey is easily a top 5 running back right now in his 3rd year.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying this just fucking blows my mind because as all of us being 20 somethings,
right?
Just even
no, Christian
numbers,
McCaffrey is like 2 years younger than
so
me
much
and
fucking
shitting
money.
on NFL defenses. So like
much fucking money.
That's where I see this collective bargaining agreement like splitting, is because you got players like that who are stuck on these rookie contracts where they're playing better than guys who are making 10 plus million more than them. So the NFL is just like a shit place. Like I love watching the NFL.
As a business standpoint, it's
exactly. From a business standpoint, as far as paying their players, it's just shit.
Yeah,
like.
But it's ridiculous how much. It's just so fucking insane. Like I always like look back on this. Like I mean, like you look at even like. No, yeah, this is going so much more of a casual conversation, but seriously, just think about this. Like, how much fucking money is spent just on Super Bowl commercials? And, like, that's fucking insane how much fucking money is dumped into the fucking NFL now.
That's easily
like,
a first-round pick contract in 5 years.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
one day.
God damn. Like, that's fucking nuts.
It depends on... I mean, I kind of disagree with the way they, like, pay the rookies, because the way it used to be... I don't remember which year it was, but when Sam Bradford came into the league,
2010.
he signed this massive deal, and he's made near close to $100 million, if not more, all this time, and he hasn't even played half the time.
That's amazing.
He's been injured. He's been a backup.
He's my hero.
Like it's like you can come in as the number 1 overall pick and not do anything.
Yeah, not do shit and still get paid.
In McCaffrey's case, he was an 8th overall pick. He's already making good money, but when he gets paid, which is going to be probably next year, maybe the following year, whenever the time comes for him to get paid, he's probably going to get the top contract in the NFL at that time, and then I'm sure some other running back's going to come up that's also going to be the top player on their team that's going to need to get paid that way.
Yeah,
it's sort of like you have to play into your money.
The thing that sucks about that, though, is that, like, 5 years is a really long time on an NFL player's career. Like,
if you're good enough,
5
though,
years,
it doesn't take 5 years to get
but
the contract.
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is 5 years is a long time to avoid injury.
Like, definitely, absolutely.
Like 5 years ago,
5 years of just getting
shit
tackled.
kicked in by NFL defenses.
Yep.
Like,
by dudes,
I will be happy.
No,
I'll be mad that Christian McCaffrey signed somewhere else. I know Carolina won't unless they let Cam Newton go. But if he lasts 5 years with the fucking amount of touches he's had, he's been on the field 99% of the snaps every fucking game.
Yeah.
And he's not getting paid near as much as some of these running backs. Like, that's the fucked up thing about the NFL right now is that, like, they overweigh free agents. They incentivize teams to be like, hey, fuck off, we're going to draft somebody else. Like, so...
Yeah, I can't even imagine. The fucking... Oh, goddamn. My jaw will just always drop at the fucking payroll. Like, the payroll, the whole fucking thing is just... God damn.
Yeah.
I mean, like, listen, don't get me wrong. Those dudes are fucking putting their life on the line and fucking...
But to us, like
80% of them have fucking brain trauma,
mean,
outside of the fucking league too.
It's not just that; it's like you're getting paid to get hurt. I mean,
yeah.
people are being hit all the time, and a lot of people are hurt almost the entire. Like people get,
so
you don't
true.
see players go through a few years and never get injured. If it's not disclosed, they're still banged up.
Yep.
I mean, there's people. I mean, they're paying to be hurt as well.
And he's actually making a very good point because it's not even just being hurt; it's risking your life. Because
yeah. Oh yeah.
NFL players, a lot of them end up with CTE over concussions.
Yep.
And I was talking to my guys in my writing chat the other day, and they were like, "So what is a player going to do? Put their long-term health over the current money they can make and risk their short-term health?" And I guarantee you that 99% of those players are going to risk their long-term health for the short-term gain.
I mean, hey, I take a couple major concussions to make like $4 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Like flat out. Like I'd be like, yeah, sounds good.
Especially when they have families that they want to like.
Oh yeah, support
and like.
Dude, on top of that too, like if you just fucking, I mean, for yet again all of us not making even a fraction of that money. Jesus Christ, you make that money, you could fucking retire. For some people, you can fucking retire off that goddamn money. So it's like, yeah, 4 years of just getting literally just blitzed all the fucking time. It's like, yeah, I could fucking, I could have a nice fucking house and a family. Like, yeah, it doesn't actually sound too bad. But yeah, I mean, yet again though, and then it's the coin flip. Some people get their fucking shit pushed in and fucking major damage and shit. But then, I mean, Brandon, like you said though too, there might be some people that don't even fucking get up, or they get injured and then they fucking dip out and they're still making bank no matter what. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot. Yeah, I definitely bank on what you're saying, Brian. Like, they definitely have to change up some things. But, I mean, me personally, though, if I can even say something more being a casual fan, I just feel like overall they gotta fucking... Not like, I mean, don't get me wrong, don't fucking shortchange how much money people are getting. I'm not saying fucking rob the people, but at the same time, like, just Jesus fucking
No,
Christ.
that money
The fucking income is just, god
that
damn.
money does not need to come from the players. The organizations and the...
Yes. Oh, how much money the organizations are
they
ripping
make
and shit is
way
absurd.
fucking more. Yeah,
absurd. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. That's the crazy thing too. I think there was actually a documentary I saw last year where I even found out like most charity events, like if you go to a stadium and there might not even necessarily have to be like an athletic event happening at said stadium, but the stadiums usually have contracts even with charitable events where they're still taking like 60% of the cut, even if they're saying like this example isn't going to make sense, but just bear with me just so I can explain it better.
Oh, yeah.
So say like St. Jude has a fucking thing and they have a booth set up and you could fucking walk there and like make donations. And even the booth could say like 100% of the proceeds are going to like St. Jude. The stadium still has the right to deduct 60% of the earnings from that, even though they're they're allowed to promote that 100% of the earnings are going toward it. It's so fucked up. It's like fucking insane. And I'm not saying like, yeah, should that immediately affect the players? No, that's not the fucking players' fault for getting on the fucking team and earn their shit. But just god damn, the fucking stadium owners and shit, and the way like independent
Yeah,
contracts go on the stadium, like not on the players, but on the stadiums themselves. Like the fucking way the money moves on that is.
now the large
fucking
majority
absurd.
of NFL owners are shit.
Oh
They're
yeah, well
assholes.
it's fucking rich white dudes just being assholes.
Yeah.
That should just be. I don't watch too many documentaries. I know I just dropped one, but I usually don't watch them too much because they fucking just. Normally they just depress me. That's normally what documentaries are. It's like one of two things in general. Back it up to a totally different like convo real quick. It's always like it's always breaks down two categories. One, did this person definitely murder this other person or not? Or two, hey, this thing you love or this thing you thought was okay, spoiler, it's like fucking tainted with evil and everything bad is fucking happening to it. Like that's all the fuck it is. Like God, I just want to see one fucking documentary where it's all bubblegums and rainbows. That's all I want so badly. But
Right.
totally flipping scripts. And we brought this up like way fucking earlier and then we haven't talked about it since. Brandon, you were fucking at the draft. How the fuck was it? Like, experience of, like, fucking players, but on top of it, just on a fucking personal level, my dude. Like, did you fucking enjoy yourself? Like, how the fuck was it?
That was one of the best days of my life going out to the draft.
So, have you done that before?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'd never gone to the draft, but it's actually free to go to the draft.
Are you serious?
So I just had to,
No
all
shit.
I had to do was get there.
Yeah.
And then basically getting to Nashville, which this is the draft for years was held in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
That I
last 2
remember.
years it was in Dallas and it was in Chicago. The year before that it was in Philly, I believe.
Oh,
Philly's
shit.
crowd for the 3-day weekend was 250,000 people, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Nashville this year had 600,000 people
Oh my
for the whole
God,
weekend.
what
The
the
first
fuck?
day I was there and the crowd was with 200,000 people.
Holy shit.
And we showed up, and there's all these people there, but we just slowly navigated our way through the crowd, and I was up in the front group.
That's
like,
fucking amazing.
I mean, I'm already fairly tall, but there's like a bunch of, like there's only like, I don't know, 100 people or so in front of me
Yeah.
out of 200,000 people.
Jesus
and we're just
Christ.
standing there watching all the picks.
That's fucking
and
nuts, dude. So,
getting
like,
to see everything that happened.
so, when you went, did you drive or did you fly?
I flew to Louisville, Kentucky, and then I drove from there.
Oh, okay. That wasn't
Down
your
to the
first
draft.
flight or anything, right?
No,
I
I've
still haven't-
flown like 100 times.
See, I've never flown. I'm still like iffy on if I should fly because I'm a 9/11 kid. So like I don't know. I don't know. I've waited too long. Like and obviously like I wasn't born on.
It's honestly like
wasn't
I'm
born on
more
the year,
likely to
but-
get in an accident if I tried to drive out there.
I know,
'Cause I've
exactly,
driven
yeah.
out there before.
Oh, really?
And it's like
Oh, shit.
I don't know, it's like a 10, 11 hour drive.
Yeah, it's
to
far.
get out there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
actually probably safer to just fly. And it also
Yeah,
took
yeah,
me an hour
yeah.
and a half to fly there instead
Well, I
of
was gonna say yeah. You cut
instead of an
fucking so much
entire
time.
day's trip to
Yeah,
drive out there.
You can turn it into a 2-hour trip as opposed to a full fucking like physical day trip and everything else. Yeah, and normally too that drive gets split up anyway. But yeah, I'm assuming it must have been a fucking party heaven.
There's just, I mean, you don't really, I don't know if anybody saw the videos of there was women that were in Nashville that weekend
Yeah.
for their bachelorette party,
Oh,
and they didn't realize the
Christ.
NFL draft was going on.
Oh,
so they got interviewed on the news, and they were just like, there's so many guys around talking about football. And I was one of the 200,000 people just talking about football the entire time. Because I'm not there for any, Nashville's a great place, and like I'm a Titans fan, so I
Yeah.
felt like it was my time to be there.
Yes,
But
your moment.
it was
right.
football, and it was the draft.
It
And
was-
from
yeah,
now
that's your
until
moment.
almost August, there's practices and training camp and
Yeah, boot camp and everything.
and different stuff like that going on. But this is like the closest thing you have to football. It's just the draft, and it's also a large potential of the team.
Yeah.
As you're watching all their draft picks get taken.
That makes sense.
And just we got to slowly migrate forward throughout the whole draft, see all the people go through, and
Yeah. That's
see
fucking
how the whole
nuts.
thing went.
How was the fucking audience? Like, was the audience like losing their mind on shit on like picks and stuff?
Or
was it just
the
kind of like
Oakland
everyone
Raiders-
drinking, just going like,
The Oakland Raiders' 4th pick overall, and they took Clelin Ferrell. He was expected to go in like the mid-20s area
Oh,
or so.
but-
That was crazy.
Can I
being
interrupt
there.
for a second?
Sure.
I was
Beyonce had the greatest album of all time. No, it isn't.
No, I was so for the entire 3 days of the draft, we were covering it live, and we straight up laughed our asses off at that pick. By the way, Clelin Ferrell, number 4 overall. It was such a reach. Anyway, continue.
And Farrell's a great player. Like I think they got a really good pick, but at the pick that they made, it wasn't. They definitely could have waited
Yeah.
and traded back or something like a lot of the other teams.
It wasn't.
do.
It wasn't an emergency. But
And
for
that
some
one was
reason,
that
they
one
jumped
was
on.
crazy being at the draft, but nothing was worse than when the Giants took Daniel Jones.
Dude, Johnny, get me started.
There was I mean, the pictures you might have seen of the guys on the TV, that was everyone there.
Yeah.
There were Giants fans leaving.
Yep.
There were Giants fans, like...
Dude, don't even get me started. Even
throwing their beers.
Dude, before
there was booze.
Before
there was tears.
Before the draft even happened, the minute I found out they fucking dropped Odell, I'm like, oh, so we just don't give a fuck. We just don't give a fuck this season. Like, we just don't care.
Dropping Odell would have made sense if they weren't going to draft a quarterback.
100%.
But they drafted a quarterback, and then they got rid of his best target.
Yes.
So, like, it just doesn't make sense.
So the Giants expect Daniel Jones to sit for a few years.
I'm guessing.
They pretty much said that, like, Eli is going to start until they don't think he should be the starter anymore.
At 39 years old.
I was about to say, which technically should have stopped last year, personally. But yet again, it's going to be what they decide to do. And that's what's frustrating. But yet again, though, that's, I mean, like, Brandon, you know most out of anybody, and I've been experiencing it just recently. But, like, the whole thing is, like, that's the whole thing with fandom, though. You got it, like, true fan. That's a tangent I'm going to get on in a second. But, like, that's the whole thing about fandom. Like, you support a team where they're good, bad, whatever the fuck's going on. You got to fucking support them through, like, the whole thing. Nothing drives me... It infuriates me. A buddy of mine just got this, like, awesome fucking dope new job. Fucking moved, like, 5 states over. And is now changed fandoms, like, across the board. So he's, like, a hockey fan, like, football. Exactly! Thank you! I literally have argued with him, like, 16 times. I'm like, dude, you can't live in a fucking city, just support that team, then move somewhere else, and then fucking just support another team. Like, you technically can do that, but no one's gonna consider you a fucking real fanboy of, like, anything if you're just gonna be that fucking flaky. Like, that shit pisses me off.
And it's like, as a Giants fan, it's not like you're hoping that Daniel Jones fails or something.
No,
it's just
absolutely
when
not.
they make a pick like that and they're taking a quarterback
like,
who,
Jesus fucking
in
Christ.
a lot of ways, people figured would either be there when the Giants picked again at 17, or he would have been there even later, possibly.
Exactly, definitely.
And they
later.
spent one of the top. I mean, like Brian, like kind of like Brian said, after 10, it's almost kind of like a lottery.
Yeah, then
but it's like when you're
shit.
picking at 6. Your team was bad enough that you need a star player, and they draft someone who they don't know if he's pro ready or not.
Yep.
There was other quarterbacks that produced a lot better than he did in college, and it's just it's a lot to draft a quarterback there at 6. But I mean, every Giants fan I would hope is hoping he does well. You're not hoping he fails.
Absolutely.
Well,
and that's my whole
as
thing.
a fan, you want your team to. You want them to capitalize on their draft picks,
100%.
not reach for people when they could have had other players.
Absolutely. And, like, listen, like, I'm a big fan of, like, gambles and stuff, but, like, and on top of that, too, on top of it, they could have made 15 more terrible picks, and I'm still going to wear their jersey regardless. But it's like, I'm also not going to ignore the fact that that horrible decisions were made. It's
so,
like every fucking fan base has to deal with it.
To give you some context about Daniel Jones, prior to the draft, there was a rumor, I say rumor, air quotes, that there was a team that felt that Daniel Jones was the best quarterback in the draft. Mm-hmm. And then Dave Gettleman, Carolina Panthers' former GM, by the way, went up and drafted him at the 6th overall pick. And he said, and I quote, that the Denver Broncos and the Washington Redskins had him as a top-rated quarterback. Mm-hmm. Both those teams came out and said that was false.
Fucking Christ.
So, I understand shooting your shot with a quarterback if you believe it.
Of course, but yeah.
They just overreacted, they reached, and that's the thing about the NFL draft that I was getting at earlier, is that you draft for value.
Yeah.
And quarterbacks are the kind of players where you throw away draft capital to go get them. But the Giants didn't just not do that. They used a top 10 pick on a quarterback who shouldn't even have gone in the top 5 as far as quarterbacks go. Yeah. So I hope it works out for the Giants. I really do. There's a reason why Giants fans were mad about it.
It won't.
It's also, from being there at the draft, one of the biggest topics when the Giants came up on the board was that, in my opinion, the best player in this draft from the University of Kentucky was Josh Allen, the linebacker. He was still there. Yeah. He should not have fallen past, I don't know, 2 or 3.
No, the Raiders should have picked him. Yeah.
Who could have taken him, but it seemed insane that the Raiders didn't take him.
Yeah.
And the Giants said, not the Giants, I shouldn't say them. Dave Gettleman said he was not going to draft based on, he wasn't going to reach for a quarterback. He was going to draft based on the base player.
Yeah, which he did.
He was going to draft the best player available. He had the best player available.
And still let him
go. And the
go.
2 teams that he was referring to, the Broncos and the Redskins, they both got the quarterbacks that they wanted. And it was neither one of them wanted Daniel Jones.
I have a conspiracy theory about Dave Gettleman, by the way. As I mentioned to you a few minutes ago, there was a rumor going around that a team felt that Daniel Jones was the best quarterback in the draft.
Yeah.
I think that what happened was the rumor got out that the Giants felt that Daniel Jones was the best quarterback in the draft. And then Dave Gettleman outbid himself because he was like, oh shit, there's another team that thinks that Daniel Jones is the best quarterback in the draft.
We gotta lock it in.
Because Dave Gettleman's like 65 years old and doesn't understand how the draft works.
There's just literally one.
He was the Panthers GM. This motherfucker drafted people who were 6'6", who ran like a 5.4 40. When in the NFL, a 4.4 40 is what you want for a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like Dave Gettleman is fucking senile.
Yeah.
He drafted Cam Newton too.
He didn't draft Cam Newton.
He wasn't their GM then.
No, it was Marty Hurney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which more proves that.
I'm sure that wasn't any better.
Marty Hurney came back. Okay, let's just calm down about Cam Newton. Jesus. I'm sorry. What's your quarterback done, Mister Fucking on IR
Brian,
for the last?
I'm not sold on my quarterback. I'm not backing him up. This is his 5th year. They're waiting to see what he does.
Brian, I love you.
I would have been very happy
with
Will
this table
Grier.
again. I'm gonna slap you across the face. I've done this before. Don't stop. I'm just 15. I'm trying to do this 15 times. You're making a fucking point.
So
God damn it.
Aside from what we've talked about in the NFL draft, so to give some more perspective on the NFL draft, after like the 4th or 5th round, you're basically just picking players where you say, okay,
it's Hail Marys.
These are the reasons why they could win in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the first 3 rounds, you're looking at players and saying, okay, this is why they're good, but why did they lose in the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
So after that, you're just looking at guys you're looking at high upside, like guys who you can develop into solid NFL players. So there's a lot of people who put way too much stock into those rounds because you're basically just drafting the guys where it's like, okay, I want to get a chance to look at this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I understand. Like, I understand where some... I always try to look at both sides. Like, I can definitely understand where people are coming from with that shit, though, because it's like... for someone who doesn't understand football terms, it's, like, so funny. I mean, like, I understand it a lot more since you and me have talked about it a lot, but, like, it's one thing... The best way I look at, like, past, like, 6th round picks is, like, penny stocks. Like, it's just shit. It's just shit where it's like... it could
You're
be
just taking a shot in the dark.
Exactly. Yeah. It could be complete garbage, or it could literally be the best absolute profit of your life that nobody fucking called. And it's like just a total Hail Mary play. And
if you look at like the history of 6th round picks, it's like there's been a few. Like Tom Brady was a 6th round pick, and Antonio Brown was a 6th round pick. But there's not...
I believe that's
It's not like the majority of 6th round picks come out and are star players or some of the best players or Hall of Famers or anything.
Another good one for Nick, as a Giants fan, Victor Cruz was an undrafted free agent.
I was actually going to bring that up, actually.
Yeah.
It's funny that
like, so that's the thing about like the last 3 rounds of the NFL draft is you're basically just using your draft pick on players where you want to be able to be the one to bring them in rather than give them the opportunity to go look around.
Yeah,
so like
definitely.
Victor Cruz worked out for them. You know, Kevin Byard worked out for the Titans. What was he, like a 3rd round pick, 5th round pick? Yeah, like
their 2 best players are Kevin Byard, who was sort of, as Brian said, he put up record stats at Middle Tennessee, and then he didn't. But like nobody really drafted him because it wasn't a big school. Mm-hmm. And then Jarrell Casey, the defensive end, was also a 3rd round pick. This is why I said they draft better later on.
Yeah,
because their 2 best players are not the top guys. They're not people that they took a chance on.
That's the thing about the NFL draft is you're just throwing darts at a dartboard, and sometimes you'll hit a bullseye, or sometimes you'll nail somebody in the knee away from the dartboard, and they'll be like, "Oh God, why?"
Jesus Christ!
So, or you're Bill Belichick and you spend the offseason in Barbados and jumping off boats, and
that's what I would do.
And then you just throw like 12 perfect darts and get all of these players.
Yeah, what a motherfucker! Jesus Christ, that man just shits out fucking gold at this point.
He shits out talent.
But that's why. But that's
excellent.
But that's why I feel like it's a trade-off though, because he just looks miserable all the time.
He's also a goddamn genius. So,
he is, but that's at least like the trade-off that I personally have. Like looking at him all the time, I'm like, oh, he just looks unhappy. so much, even though he does so much successful shit. Like, the man might as well be printing money at this point, but it's just, he looks so miserable on a fucking human being level. I'm like, okay, at least that's where God fucking evens
The Patriots can have, like, where they're winning by, like, 5 or 6 touchdowns, and he still does not smile.
Oh, not at all.
There's no reaction.
I don't understand. It's so funny because you'll see so many Patriots fans who are the worst. But you'll see so many No, that's not true. That's not true. I have a lot more different team fan bases that I actually hate way more than the Patriots. But I just love it because you'll see so many Patriots people. Because, like, the problem is, like, I love Patriots fans because because at this point they're just going like, yeah, it's like, yeah, we knew you were gonna win, like, just like they were already holding the trophy and they're just like, yeah, it's like, yeah, we fucking knew, dude, like,
we
you don't
get
have
it.
to. And then you
Tom Brady is your quarterback.
Exactly. Yep. It's like, yeah, we got it. And then it just cuts to Belichick, who's just like, yes, touchdown, yes.
It's the same thing with him. It's like, why would he celebrate a Super Bowl when he knows he's gonna get like, probably a 7th one next year?
He's already getting his, like, I was about to say, he's already getting his future ring fitting, and he's just like, okay, yeah, that'll.
Gonna have to get some
nice.
plastic surgery for this 7th finger over here. Yeah.
Gonna have to cut some fat off of this hand to be able to fit all these rings. Jesus Christ! All right, kids, we're coming up on an hour here, so let's semi wrap it up here. But so for me, I'm already completely abysmal on my team. I don't think my team's gonna do absolute shit. Brandon, any thoughts? Any potential on what you think your team's gonna do this year? Anything different? Anything relatively formal?
Well, 3 straight seasons they've gone 9-7.
Mm-hmm.
They put up the same record, which is like borderline. If the league is not having a crazy year, you can make the playoffs, which they did one time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could win like one more game this year. They could lose one more game.
So 10-6.
They've added some important talent, but I mean, to me, this year, even more than just winning, is about their quarterback.
Yeah.
The quarterback's the most important position on your team.
Definitely.
And their quarterback is one of the few who's made it 5 years and doesn't have a new contract. They haven't given up on him yet.
Yeah.
It's everything comes down to the quarterback this next year.
So we'll say
By the way, the Titans did add Ryan Tannehill.
Ooh. Well, I was gonna say too. So Brandon, so just so the next time I have you on, even like a potential independent podcast, I just want to say. So we'll say 10-6. Just so God forbid, future down the road, you can say that.
10-6 would be my guess. They have the 3rd hardest schedule going into the next season, so I could honestly see another 9-7, 4 straight consecutive years. Their division's really tough. The Indianapolis Colts are almost a Super Bowl.
Their divisions, their
division's
tough
really
as
picked up
shit
this year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Brian, thoughts, Panthers? Where do you think they're going? I mean, of course, don't give me the full depth analysis. I'm just saying overall thoughts. Brian has to cut 14 paragraphs from his initial speech or what he's about to say.
So,
you can do it, Brian. I believe in you.
To give you the rundown on the Carolina Panthers.
No, Brian, I just asked for an overview. Where do you think they're going to go?
It's a high-level overview.
No, what's your... No, Brian, we have a minute. Give me your minute. Just where do you think they're going to place?
I think they're going to place 2nd in the NFC South.
Wow! That's where you're calling?
Because they addressed the offensive line, and Cam Newton. The last time Cam Newton had a very good offensive line, he went to the Super Bowl, and they did more than they did that year to address the offensive line.
Okay.
That's my take.
Who do you think's going to win that division then if it's not them?
The Saints.
The Saints. See, I don't believe in the Saints going into next year.
Really?
I know the Saints are another team that's viewed as a Super Bowl favorite, but after they lost to Dallas last season, their offense fell off, and they don't have any draft picks because they traded up last year.
That's the fan base I hate the most, by the way.
And they didn't get to add very much.
Don't get me started on the Cowboys. Fucking, oh my god. And you want to know the worst part? We're going to lose them again this year, and I'm going to fucking kill myself. That's just going to be it.
It's another team that I think's overhyped, honestly.
What, Cowboys?
They have their defense was their best part, and then they lost like 2 of them to drugs and suspensions. Yes! And then they drafted
oh my god.
They drafted a guy who's had alcohol problems in college. I mean, he'll fit right in with his people. But
I just love that fucking Cowboys fans, like, relatively lately have been like, oh my god, we can fucking do something. It's like, that's adorable. That's adorable.
They won their first playoff game. They did. Like, they won a playoff game, so that was really nice.
They did.
There's a difference between winning one playoff game and then making the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Well, and I love that because they beat us last year by a point. And then fucking every Dallas fan was like, oh my god. It's like, first of all, we've been running on fumes. Giants were running on fumes for like 3 fucking years. And then on top of it, it's like, congratulations. Like, you got 1 W. Let's see you fucking go up. They didn't go up. They got immediately crushed. I think it was by the Rams, right?
Yeah.
The Rams literally beat them the week following. And then, like, literally everyone's like, oh, well, well, they have a lot of potential. It's like, dude, they got fucking obliterated. Like, Giants were on fucking one peg leg, and we still almost, and we only lost by a point. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Goddamn, drives me nuts. But, to fully wrap this up now, thank you, gentlemen, both, for being on. I love and appreciate you both in emotional, deep ways that make me feel weird about myself.
Okay.
Anyway, guys, thank you again for being on. Brian, I know I said this last time. Your plugs, by all means, plug all your shit, please.
Oh, sure. I'm a social media manager for Cat Scratch Reader, which is a Vox Media part of SB Nation, which is the NFL coverage of pretty much everything NFL. And I am the social media manager. You can follow us as at Cat Scratch Reader. Subtract that last E on Reader. Yeah, now I'm here to talk football all the time.
There we
So
go. Cool
appreciate you plugging me.
Yeah, anytime, I do. And Brandon, I know you don't have any endeavors, but if you ever get any, I fucking support you, man.
Football is mostly just like a passionate hobby.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, next, you know what? Actually, for probably next time, on a total side note too, I'm actually bummed because we didn't get to talk about Smash at all. I was actually hoping to have an in-depth conversation. About
Smash?
We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, we should do that.
We're
yeah.
definitely gonna talk about it next time because Joker got added, a bunch of shit got added. We gotta talk about how many dicks
Spike
are in
City.
stages and shit. Yeah, there's so much shit we gotta talk about. But anyway, guys, thank you again for being on. I appreciate and love you guys both. Thank you all for listening. Please always, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And as always, guys, good evening, good night, and good luck. Goodbye, everybody.